Welcome into the latest episode of the Betting the Pitch podcast. I'm your host, real_G Warner. We are 22-6, our last, actually all best bets this season, a nice 79%. I'll give it a second for those of you that are coming in live, but this is the place you want to be if you're looking for some soccer winners. We're going through on this episode Serie A from Italy. We don't have any other matches between now and Saturday, so it is Friday night, late night with the real_G Warner, though a much earlier late night than usual. So I'll give it a second before I get started, but going to go through all the Italian matches post Christmas. Happy holidays to those of you who are celebrating or whatever you're doing at those parts, everything like that. Enjoy yourselves. I hope you had a good time with family, or if you don't have family and you'd rather not spend it with them, I get that too. I'm not saying that in case any of my family members are listening. However, so we're going to go through the entire slate of the Italian Serie A for December 28th, 29th, and 30th. And then we will pick a best bet end of show to try to add to that pretty gaudy 22-6 record. I want to make sure I get this tweet out, and then I will jump right into it, which I think I did that right. Let's see. Well, worst case scenario, we'll find out later. Um, Okay, so I think it's time to go. Let's get into it. Thank you for coming in, especially if you're avoiding your family to listen to my podcast. I really appreciate that. And the Lord will look fondly upon you for making that decision. We're going to start in Italy. We actually, thankfully, this is not a Sunday episode because there's no 5:30 Central Time, or I'm recording you currently from Bluffton, South Carolina. So we are not as behind Italy as we normally are. But I'll start with Parma and Monza, the early, I guess, 9 a.m. Eastern time, 8 a.m. Central time for the normal time zones. That's the first matchup. Parma coming off a blowout loss to Roma, actually, in that early Sunday start. And unfortunately for them, it seemed to be a get the frustration out type of performance from Roma. We haven't seen it from them all season. They've gone through multiple managers, but they're going to be talked about later. As for the Parma side, I mean, a really bad loss right before that as well. Things have not been going great for Parma lately. They're a newly promoted side to the Italian Serie A, and this is one of those things they can't really allow to have happen because once the slide starts, especially for newly promoted sides, there is no real way out. Of course, Parma play a different brand than most promoted clubs. Parma are very aggressive, front-footed, but the problem is they don't have another way to play. So when things are going well for them, it works great. But then we're seeing a little bit of troubled waters currently for Parma. Income Monza, though, bottom of Serie A. I'm not sure if their manager actually survived the most recent loss. It was another close match. They played the big clubs really, really tight across Italy so far this season. But haven't really been able to get points because they haven't been able to score goals. In comes Salvatore Bocchetti as of December 23rd, according to Reuters. Alessandro Nesta, I guess, made it through most of the league, but only won one league game, or most of the first half of the season, I guess you could say, though we're still not there yet, just a few matches away. Bocchetti has signed a contract until June 2027, but those contracts mean nothing usually, so we'll see how that ends up going. Parma, a quarter goal favorite at home. All the juice on Monza away from home totals 2 3/4, juice slightly more to over. So Monza, they will get the new manager bounce, which I think has been defined recently from watching a Wolverhampton Wanderers tweet or something like that. Pretty much, it makes players that feel like they haven't been getting used them out of the rotation. They play harder. That makes training increase or improve and forces everyone, even if you're in spots and have already won them under the previous manager, it forces everyone to step up their game. That's a good sign. Not a good one for Parma, especially as a home favorite, but Parma have played very well at home. They were pretty fortunate to start their league calendar facing some of the biggest clubs at home to open up the campaign, including Milan, who I'm wearing a kit of as we speak. I do think that there is some. I mean, I don't know that the troubled waters are going to be worst now for Parma this season. I think they will struggle moving forward, but we'll see. Currently, only a quarter goal favorite with all the juice on Monza is very respectful of the league bottom going away from home and playing an open game that might help their offense. Monza still has a lot of great attackers in their lineup. but they haven't been scoring goals all year. Parma will certainly open up the pitch for that to occur. And everyone knows who follows the Betting the Pitch podcast and Apple Podcast, Spotify, or at the real underscore G Warner across all platforms, especially on YouTube and on Twitter. You know that I'm an underdog and an under player. And Parma are, I think, they're more at risk for an underdog to come in and win their game. I feel like unders just don't really work with Parma a lot because they concede a lot, but mainly because they try to score a ton of goals. And really, what their goal is going to be is to outscore Monza. That certainly doesn't play into an under type of capacity, but it also makes Monza, I feel, a little bit more interesting and maybe explains why they're so heavily juiced right now at a quarter of a goal underdog. With that said, this number has moved since I've been following it, and only seemingly to be built on the Monza side, and money coming in that direction. Maybe this falls to Pick'em, backing the new manager. Until then, I will wait because Parma at Pick'em does seem very interesting, even though you would be fighting that new manager bounce. We'll move next in the same window. Empoli hosts Genoa, another clash of sides that are struggling or expected to struggle this season. Empoli have been great. Genoa have already replaced their manager. Empoli currently a quarter goal favorite at home, but all the juices on Genoa even more expensive than Monza. Total is 2, just really heavily to under right now. So Empoli, I haven't really seen this number move at all. They've been a very a plus money quarter goal favorite at home. And I'm kind of waiting to see where this number will fall, if it will finally get some Empoli money and drive them back towards a more reasonably priced quarter goal favorite at home, or if Genoa will continue getting bet and move to Pick'em. Hasn't happened yet, though probably is Pick'em across other places. All lines quoted courtesy of BetOnline and Sportsbetting.ag on this podcast, as I've been doing that forever. If you don't have an account with either of those places, Sportsbetting.ag or BetOnline.com.ag, excuse me, let me know or follow the links in the podcast description. They will get some free money for your first time deposit. With that said, Genoa have not been impressive. They received a lot of respect coming into the season, have not delivered on that because they basically sold all their goal scorers and had to figure out what to do. Sacked their manager a while ago, brought in Patrick Vieira, who's struggled at a lot of different places, but he's never really been in a perfect scenario other than when he was doing really well at Nice and they fired him way too early, I thought. But the Genoa side is of interest to me just because Empoli are not a goal scoring side, though they've had some extremely hot performances from Esposito and others so far this season. I probably should shout out some other names just to give them their due. But it's been an incredible run. I mean, Pellegrini's been great. Colombo, I mean, it's been all across and kind of unheralded players. Empoli have no real background or like backing. It seems they just take on loan players and turn them into incredible superstars, and then they go back to their clubs and they do it again all over again the next season in Serie A and somehow have stayed in. In terms of tradition and the respect for the club in Italy, I think Genoa are far, far beyond Empoli. And how could you not with the name El Grifoni, translates to the Griffins. At this point, I think Genoa are expensive right now as a quarter goal underdog. I'm waiting to see Empoli move to Pick'em. At that point, I will probably want to get involved. And the other two is very interesting to me because Empoli have been scoring goals, which definitely puts an under 200 threat, but I don't think Genoa is going to score much. I think Genoa is going to go in away from home and try to be as defensive as possible. That makes Empoli as a quarter goal favorite a little bit less interesting to me. But I think I'm fairly interested in the under 2 in this matchup. And also I got to remember to add this to the counter for my Serie A podcast because I don't have that on the list just yet. Did win the Southampton under 3 goals or under 2 3/4 if you got a closing line. Pretty nice, no sweat English Premier League winner to improve to that 22-6 margin. Now that that's updated, I can stop patting myself on the back and move to the next set of matches. I guess just one by itself. Cagliari hosts Inter Milan on Saturday at noon Eastern time here in the United States. Cagliari currently 1 1/4 goal underdog with juice split both ways. Total is 3, juice really heavily to under right now. Cagliari, they are a more aggressive home team under Davide Nicola. And try to win games there. Away from home, they are going to try to make this as low scoring as possible. You would think if there's ever a match for Cagliari to treat at a home game like it was a road game, it'd be when Inter coming off a 6-0 thrashing of Lazio a couple of match days ago, though Inter did struggle in their last match heading into this, I guess, pseudo Christmas break, though really they were just midweek off. It doesn't seem to be much of a break. Calorie, a big underdog here, a goal and a quarter. That is interesting to me at this point, though I don't know necessarily how much I want to do with that. I think Inter have proven. I mean, I did play against them with Parma a couple weekend Fridays ago. Felt very fortunate to push on a +2. Also played Lazio in that 6-0 drubbing, which ended before it started, it felt. And I got to say, Inter have had some not great performances. I don't know that they've been as strong this season as they've been in the past, but they're still the best club in Italy. Should have scored, conceded 0 goals in Champions League, if not for a really late freakish goal from Bayer Leverkusen at the end in Germany. But at this point, Cagliari, I don't know what their strategy here is. If they're going to play their aggressive, more open type of style, they could get hit for a lot of goals. It makes the under way less attractive. If they play their very defensive brand, unfortunately, when Inter take a lead because they're so used to that, then they're going to have to push out and they'll be already a goal behind. Though if Cagliari can keep it that way or somehow find and nick a goal early, then maybe things change. I just feel like if you're betting Cagliari as a side here, you're hoping they keep a clean sheet for a long time or they can score a goal. And unfortunately, I think that's a low probability event. With that said, Inter going away from home, I'm never going to be interested in bigger than a goal favorite away. We've seen Davide Nicola have a lot of success fighting relegation in the past. I'm interested. I like the goal and a quarter and the under 3, but there's a lot of problems surrounding it, and I think I got to do a lot more thinking than I can on this live episode of Betting the Pitch right now. To the nightcap on Saturday, a big one. Lazio hosting Atalanta. Currently, Lazio a quarter goal underdog at home with almost all the juice. Totals 2.5, juiced all the way to over. So Atalanta, they look like a club that's fighting for the Scudetto. You could have said that for Lazio as well until that big thrashing from Inter. I think Lazio have played better football versus expectations, though Atalanta have been great too. With all that said, Atalanta, they've had success in the stadium, went and won at Roma earlier this season, as Lazio and Roma share a Stadio Olimpico in Rome. Lazio to me have been great throughout Europe, but they've been playing in the Europa League while Atalanta were in Champions League, the top of the mountain. And at this point, Atalanta are great and they should win games, but I feel like in a similar style to Inter, they haven't had easy wins. So I'm interested in Lazio getting that quarter of a goal at home. And I think I like that a lot more than I like the under 2.5 because I'm not an over player. Sorry, Joe Dollar. But at this point, I do think that Lazio, they can score goals. Atalanta can as well. This could be a huge shootout. And if Lazio win this game, or really draw this game, I don't want to lose and split my winnings on this one if I play under and lose that in a high scoring game. Low scoring game, I think favors Lazio because they're at home, but there's a lot to unpack there and something we probably need to figure out for later. On Sunday, we have Udinese hosting Torino. Currently, Udinese, a quarter goal favorite at home. Juice is split both ways. Total is 2 on this one, juiced all the way to over. Udinese with a huge comeback victory in their last match against Fiorentina on Monday of last week before Christmas time. Udine, I mean, they were really fortunate, got a kind of flukish first goal, then Florian Thauvin with the game winner on his left foot. Can't let him get anywhere near the box with his left foot. Lethal from Marseille, and I think even in Mexico. Came back to Serie. We'll see what this looks like for Torino because they're just a side that's been safe for many, many years, but really look like they miss Ivan Juric, now manager of Southampton after his failed stint at the Roma. Torino just don't score goals, and that's a really big problem. I'm not going to play them as a quarter goal underdog away. Biggest interest if you want to back Torino, I think is you play under 2 in that Sunday 5:30 Central, 6:30 Eastern time. So a little bit early, easier for me for now. Probably not getting up for that one though. I'll have to be guessing what I'm going to do. Probably playing under 2 overnight. Moving to the next, I guess, stage of games, just one to speak of actually, as we do have a couple games on Monday. Napoli hosting Venezia. Currently Napoli 1 3/4 goal favorite. All the juice on Venezia away from home. Total is 3, just all the way to under. So they're going to tax you pretty heavily if you want to play Venezia away from home and under 3. Though I do really like that push on 3, as I think it's an essential number in this type of game, key number if you will. Like a 3 in the NFL, a 7, I guess also will fit. A big number to push because 2-1, Venezia are upset. Napoli are celebrating and hanging on for dear life at the final whistle, and you get out of there without losing any money if it does finish there. So Napoli, they haven't scored a ton of goals this year. Venezia, they I think just replaced their manager as well as everyone's getting nervous around Christmas time. Venezia newly promoted, weren't expecting a ton and have been pretty fortunate in their wins this year. I don't really think they're going to compete here, which is the biggest question is as games get ugly and out of control for a road underdog, do they substitute and focus on their future endeavors, or do they really batten down the hatches to try to keep a lower goal differential, which with new rules in Serie A ended up in a one match playoff back, I think, 2 seasons ago with Spezia involved. After two teams finished on the same amount of points and they just threw out goal differential, just had a playoff match, maybe for money, but it seemed to be very fortunate for one side and not for the other. I don't think Venezia are thinking about that yet. I think they're trying to stay as healthy as possible, try to win this game, but that's going to be a very low likelihood, low probability event. I think Venezia instead will try to keep this as low scoring as possible. I think that's how Napoli want to play under Conte as well. And I think Venezia will try to stay away from the traps as long as they can in this matchup. So under three is my biggest interest in this Sunday morning kickoff. Moving next to Juventus hosting Fiorentina, currently Juve, a half a goal favorite, almost all the juice on Fiorentina, or more juice on the Fiorentina side, away from home. Totals 2.25, juiced almost all the way to over. Juve have seen a lot more goals in their matches of late. The defense hasn't been as good, but they have been scoring. Income Fiorentina have been very hot, but did give a game away to Udinese right before this Christmas holiday. So we'll see what that means. And honestly, with the importance of Catholicism in Italy, it's crazy to see the suspensions for saying "Oh my fat God" or something like that. For a goalkeeper, I think Turati, who's now at Monza, previously of Frosinone last season, getting suspended a couple matches for speaking out against the Lord. Crazy that's happened in the year of our Lord 2024. But at this point, I do think that some teams are going to be a little bit slow, lethargic, you could say. We'll see that all works. But Fiorentina, half a goal underdog is of interest to me. A bounce back, though, is certainly is a really tough place to go into. Juve, though, I feel like I haven't had a good opportunity. I feel like they've had a very easy schedule. I've been looking for Fiorentina and really just ways to play against Juventus because I don't trust their offense. Seems like a lot of Conceição creating on his own and then seeing what they could possibly get from Dusan Vlahovic, who also former Fiorentina player. There will certainly be some whistles from the visiting fans in this matchup after he fled Fiorentina for the Juve black and white. I think both just really this is a game that's meant for a type of player like me, underdog, getting that half of a goal, and also the under 2.25. I'll certainly be waiting to see this number climb until game time on Sunday afternoon, noon Eastern, high noon in South Carolina time. But we'll see what happens and where this one goes. To the nightcap on Sunday, we have Milan hosting Roma. Currently, Milan a quarter goal favorite, a little bit more juice. Total is 2.5, a little bit more juice as well. Roma with a huge stamp of we're back after a huge win in their early matchup last Sunday against Como. I wouldn't trust it yet. I still have a lot of doubts about Roma, though they've certainly installed a very defensive manager. To that end, I think Milan, they've got one of the most attacking managers in all of football. It's pretty low total at only 2.5, though I think that kind of suggests Roma play their type of game, try to keep this as low scoring as possible. I don't think clearly the Serie A market is backing Roma here or making them only a quarter goal underdog. I don't think one win over a newly promoted side really says that much. So to me, it tells me there's a lot of respect for Roma in the marketplace now. Milan have not looked great. They have certainly their struggles. Who knows what's happening with Rafael Leao and if he moves in January. Cristiano Pulisic, as they call him in the stadium, he's out injured as well. So there's some problems at Milan. I'm curious to see if Roma keep getting bet, and it's certainly a game I will continue to watch. But for my best bet on this one, I guess I'll go under 2.5. So my biggest interest that Roma potentially dictate tempo. But man, that's tough to do with two big clubs and with Milan who want to be on the front foot as for every second as possible. Moving to Monday, we have Como hosting Lecce. Currently, Como a three-quarter goal favorite with a little bit more juice on Lecce away from home. Total is 2.5, juice really heavily to under. I don't know where this number comes from. Como are a newly promoted. Lecce have been in the league for a while, staying in barely, but staying in. Como spent a ton of money, but their players aren't that good or that I mean, the big names, Rafael Varane has very barely played this year, if at all. I don't really trust it. Three-quarter of a goal favorite is way too big. Yes, they might win this match, but even a single goal victory, I still get half my stake back. Give me Lecce, three-quarters of a goal underdog, and I lean to under 2.5 here, as Lecce are not a goal scoring side, and they're going to do the best they can to keep this as low scoring as possible. Though I'm not even sure how much they trust Como. Plus, the stadium is literally like it's right on top of Lake Como, and the weather they deal with there is obscene. So yikes! It's sometimes the wet grass helps the ball move, but from some of the like fogged up camera angles we've seen from Como this year, that could play into under as well. And 2.25 doesn't seem much worse than 2.5 to me. As for the last matchup, we have Bologna hosting Verona. Currently, Bologna one goal favorite with all the juice. Totals 2.5. Juiced a little bit more to under. So Bologna, they've found their way to Champions League last year, sold all their players, or they all left, and so did their manager. We'll see what ends up happening this season and kind of how they finish it up. But for now, one goal favorite to a really bad defense of Verona, who usually at this time of year sell all their assets and then find a way to stay in the league. We haven't seen that momentum just yet. I think Bologna are much better, but I don't trust them as a goal favorite. Verona certainly look like they're moving closer to a goal and a quarter than staying at a goal before this match kicks off on Monday, December 30th, as I'll probably be on my way to Vegas that day for New Year's Eve, like I was 21 or something. But at this point, I'm interested in Verona getting that full goal. I think I'm more interested in under 2.5 as a way to play against a Bologna defense and excuse me, ways to play against both offenses, Bologna's and Verona's. And then I guess potentially in a way, it's scary to back a Verona defense, but Bologna defense is certainly worth backing against a really quiet Verona attack. So that'll get us through the entire Italian Serie A post-Christmas card. I want to make sure I didn't miss any messages for any of you that have been with me live. I certainly appreciate that. Looks like when I minimize everything, I do have comments open in case anyone's around and wants to chat. But you know, it is big Friday night, big party time for a lot of people in this world. So I am not shocked that that might not be the biggest desire at the moment. With that said, it's time to get to the ultimate best bet. I might as well get my cellular telephone to record this and get us ready to put for a minute on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, assuming I can balance this correctly. As you can tell, I'm basically recording from a different spot in every episode. So bear with me and thank you for all your patience. It's been, it's what happens when you're playing road games all the time, I guess. Now I understand what it's like to be a professional athlete. Just kidding. Clearly don't look like one. So time for the ultimate best bet. Let's time to get into it, I guess. So let's do it. Hey, this is real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. This is the ultimate best bet. We're 22-6, 79% so far this season. Going to try to keep this going on a strictly Italy Serie A episode. So what I do is I always put together my best bets. My favorite from this week is Lazio, a quarter goal underdog. They're at home to Atalanta, a big matchup. One Champions League side in Atalanta, a Europa League side in Lazio. Certainly makes it look like Atalanta are much better. They're much higher in the table. You could argue all that. Lazio have been great. They're better at home, and they don't have to win this match. A draw at home is enough to pay us out, get us to 23-6 so far this season. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but I think Lazio keeps this game really, really close. Atalanta have not been as dominant, and I think we see that again here. And that'll do it for this episode. Thank you for tuning in. We will see you on the next episode. I think I'll do a English Premier League episode tomorrow evening or tomorrow at some point. And then as that English Premier League returns on Sunday, I had a huge Boxing Day. Haven't even caught up on it yet so far, but a lot of wins, no losses. Just see if Wolverhampton get us all the way to the window, because I'm going to go watch that now. Then also stay tuned on this channel for the NFL podcast with A_Schnicker. We haven't recorded that yet due to the holidays, but we're going to get it to you, and hopefully on Friday evening before the Saturday slate of NFL games. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much for the support. Make sure you hit the follow button at the real_G Warner across all the platforms, and go check out the Patreon if you want my picks.